Okay, welcome back everyone to the old switcheroo where we're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jaymo, and we are joined once again by two very special guests, my brothers, Justin and Jonathan. Say hello, Justin.
Hello, it's good to be back on the modern mind of Michael Lund.
Stop changing the title of the podcast. And Jonathan, say something else other than that.
Hello, it's not good to be back.
Oh my gosh, he's a little salty. We had him play one of the games today, right before recording, or really as recording, I think. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. We are talking about pinball games. In our episode, we're calling Crazy Flipper Fingers. We are talking about pinball.
We're talking about Eco the Dolphin.
And Sonic Spinball. We are not talking about, is it Eco the Dolphin or Echo the Dolphin? I thought it was Echo.
Echo.
Yeah.
Probably Echo.
Sure, Echo, whatever. In Echo, he used echolocation, so.
This is a reference to that Who song. He's got crazy flipper fingers. He's never seen them fall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. That's you, Pinball Wizard.
Oh, see, the song I think about this is that the theme song reminds me of Surrender by Cheap Trick. So I was totally thinking a different band.
Okay. No. Okay. Well, man, I thought this title would be a hit, but it really took us down a different road. Let's dive into just talking about pinball in general, because for me at the arcade, like pinball is usually a pass for me. Like I usually go towards, more traditional arcade games, something that has a screen and like a bit more of a story. But Mike, your excitement for this episode, you're a pinball boy, right?
Oh yeah, I really enjoy pinball, and I think that's going to reflect a lot of the differences here. I think that's something I picked up from my dad, who liked pinball back at the time where it was slightly more illicit, I guess, actually, if I think about it.
Did you say illicit?
Yes.
Like illicit pinball. What do you mean?
What kind of quarter get you?
Pinball was illegal in a lot of areas until the 70s.
What?
Are you talking about like Saudi Arabia?
No, I'm talking about like New York. Like up until like 1976, pinball was illegal in the city of New York.
Is this because I think I remember this because it was seen as like gambling because you didn't know how long you would get with a quarter?
It was seen as gambling because it was thought to be a game of chance. And part of this is that,
oh my God,
like if you go back to like the origins of pinball,
yeah,
you didn't have flippers introduced until 1947.
Right.
So prior to that, you could try to get more play out of, shaking the machine to affect where the ball went, but you didn't really have that much control. And so it wasn't until that, and the other thing is that you had slot machines are very handy if you're trying to launder money, because there's no clear indication of, there's no, we sold this much of a thing, we should have this much. So there's an element of that. And you also straight up have an overlap between like things like slot machines and pinball. When you look at Pinball Wizard has a line, I thought I was the Bally Table King.
That was almost my title for this episode, Bally Table Kings. But I went with Crazy Flipper Fingers.
And the name is coming, the Bally name is coming from a game that was called Ballyhoo, which was a pinball machine.
Wow.
And so they named the company after that. But Bally was also, I think it's the Horseshoe now in Vegas, was for a while Bally's, and Bally makes slot machines. So you have this link between the two for decades. You have the questions as to whether organized crime was involved. And so it wasn't until the 70s, they did a really cool movie recently that's sort of a dramatization of it, about Roger Sharp, who was a magazine writer that was basically, he was trying to do a book on pinball machines because he really liked pinball machines, and was basically tapped to come in and be like, can you please play for the New York City Council and demonstrate that you actually can control what you're doing, and that this isn't and the whole argument is like, this isn't a game of chance, this is a game of skill. You can control what you're doing. And he basically called his shot on the pinball machine. It was like, if I pull the plunger back just the right amount, I can get this one thing to light up.
So he played pinball in front of Congress.
In front of the city council. And
city council.
And actually, it's I think what they talk about is like, they brought in a machine, and the city council was like, no, we don't know if that's a doctored machine. We've got this other one that you're going to play on. They took it
That's
very
amazing.
seriously, and to their credit, the city council did reverse the decision that they'd had for
Right.
decades.
Wow.
I think San Francisco still had the law in the books until within the last like decade.
Wow.
And
so
so
into the 2000s, it was still technically
yeah,
illegal.
and I think it was there that you like there was a place that had pinball where it was like you had an entry fee, but you weren't paying for the machines because the machine was the paying on the machine part was the gambling part somehow. So you have this whole thing where it's not really till like the 70s it starts becoming like legal again. It's this whole lengthy thing, and it is also the other part that makes this interesting to me is I think of pinball in much the same way that I think of slot machines in one other way, which is they're both things where, to me at least, the first chunk of time is not, start playing, it's read the information. So like a pinball
What?
Yeah, because a pinball machine would have a lot of, chunks of text that'll usually be down towards the bottom near the flippers off to the sides.
Wait, you read the instructions on the pinball machines when you play them?
Yeah.
I've never known someone to do that. I've seen it.
Because it has that useful information. And I think this is actually why I had a good stretch of winning money on slot machines in Vegas from the same strat, because I was so used to doing that.
Yeah.
That I had a stretch of going to Vegas and I'd go midweek, so they weren't that crowded. And I was naturally drawn to Star Wars slot machines. But the first thing I did is I just sat down and just read through before any money went in. I read through and I found sort of a loophole on the slot machines I was playing. And it was great.
Yeah, you can, I don't know if we want to put this in recording, but you kind of know the trick to like exploiting the Star Wars slot machine.
Well, I'm okay doing this because I'm not clearly I wasn't the only one. I went through it and I read all the instructions of how it worked and the various other things that would happen. And the gist of it was a group of machines that would all compete against one another. And there were some progressive payouts. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so if I can qualify for the compete against the other machines and I'm the only machine.
You're competing against yourself. You're going to get a big bonus.
It's just me. I automatically, I win. And I figured that out. And just every night I would go and win between $50 and $100.
Nice.
Off that slot machine over the course of an hour, 2 a.m. at MGM. And so that slot machine's gone now. And I'm pretty sure, or partially because Disney's cut back on licensing at this point of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other part is why that's gone, I think, is because I'm not the only one that bothered to read instructions and realize that you can win on the Star Wars slot machines in the middle of the night.
And your picture is also up on the wall that says, "Do not let this man play."
Keep him away from the pinball too.
Yeah, no, I think they just went, we're going to move those. But yeah, both of them have that same thing of there's so much going on that you kind of do just have to take it in at the start and go, what do I need to do?
That's funny. You know what? So I'm not letting my students know about this because of all the weird jokes that Mike makes during it. But if any of my students are listening, there's proof for you. Read the instructions. Reading the instructions pays out literally. And it's funny you said that pinball originally didn't have flippers. It reminded me of the pachinko machines that are still super prominent in Japan. At least when I went. Gosh, it's almost 20 years ago now. Jonathan, you've been to Japan more recently. Did you go into downtown Tokyo?
Nope.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I went to Haneda Airport and then I left places otherwise.
Oh, okay. So you never saw the pachinko parlors?
No, I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, but so pachinko is for those that don't know, it's you just put the ball at the top, kind of like in pinball.
How about a game of Lucky Hit?
Why not Lucky Hit? You know where I can find any sailors? Weird Shenmue reference. But yeah, but that is Lucky Hit from Shenmue. And so kind of probably the origin of pinball. So let's get into the origin of video game pinball, which is pinball on the NES in 1984. That is not the image I'm showing you guys. I just wanted to talk about this is an image of my favorite pinball machine, and I think Justin would back me up too. The Jurassic Park pinball machine.
That's one of the best ones ever made.
I would say yes, maybe the best pinball machine ever made.
It's got dinosaurs.
Most of the original Jurassic Park stuff, it was better than anything.
Yeah,
the movie, the games associated with it.
I mean, the Jurassic Park pinball machine is not better than the movie.
Well, no,
Is
but
it?
I mean, like the movie is better than all the other Jurassic Park movies that came after it.
Right. You're saying that the franchise for Jurassic Park was never better than when it was just that one movie and its
Yeah,
associated
and now we
merchandise.
got
That's true.
Bart running around yelling.
You're right. It's kind of, although I've heard good things about Jurassic World Evolution, the theme park builder. But Mike, have you played the Jurassic Park pinball machine?
I want to say I feel like I have. This is the one that, or I'm thinking of another one because I think this is basically a gun as the
Yeah.
stopper, right? As the
If you look
plunger.
at the bottom right corner, it's normally called the plunger, the thing that
Yeah.
launches the ball. It's like a gun because like of
Stun
Robert
gun.
Muldoon. Yeah, it's a trank gun that launches
Sure,
the
we
ball.
call them tranquilizers.
Yeah, I guess every bullet is a tranquilizer technically if it's just too strong. But this one, had the sound effects and it had an actual. You can see it just baby squint on this image I provided. There was an actual T-Rex animatronic in the top left corner of the board, and it could eat your ball. It would actually swallow your ball. And like, how cool!
Then normally that's $40.
Come on, keep it classy. Well, that's my favorite pin. Do you guys, Justin and I think, it's our favorite pinball machine. Mike, Jonathan, do you have a favorite pinball machine or is it just this too?
I like the Teletubbies one.
Shut up. There's
There
no
was
such
a
thing.
Teletubbies one?
No.
You Google it right now. I bet you find it.
I let
Okay.
someone do it.
Okay,
One
Justin's
that
gonna
comes
Google
to
it.
mind for me, probably, and this is also just because it was prominent, was the Addams Family.
Oh
Yeah.
Monsters one was good too.
Was there a Monsters? Oh yeah, there was a Monsters one. Yeah. I don't know.
Cheese?
The Monsters cheese pinball table.
Monsters
Oh.
cheese.
Yeah, it gets real hot though and melts. Least favorite pinball is the Pinballs by Betsy Byars.
What is that?
It was when I was in like second grade, we had to read this novel. And it's called The Pinballs. And I remember we checked it out of the school library. Mike, this might have been when your mom was working as the librarian.
No, she started working after we left.
Okay. Well, it's just this when we checked it out, I was like, oh right, pinballs. Like I get to read about arcades. And the teacher's like, just so you know, it's not about an arcade. They bounce around the foster care system like pinballs. And I was like, lame.
I think I remember doing the exact same thing.
You had a real example of the Simpsons episode where the lottery gets really high and like everybody's checking out the book The Lottery from the library, and Ken Brotman's like, this book has all the copies are checked out, even though it has nothing to do with how to win the lottery.
Yeah, basically. Justin,
Are
you
both
said
of
you
that
also
kid's legs
remember.
in casts?
Yeah, I thought I know I read that book. I don't remember if we had to or it was also in the library, but I also remember being disappointed that it had nothing to do with actual pinballs.
Yeah, and Jonathan, that is a character. Both his legs are in casts. He is run over by his drunken dad. And
Hey, at least he was drunk. He
It
probably
was a
didn't mean
movie
it.
too. Yeah, I think we watched the movie in school.
Oh, I don't remember the movie, but I think we might have watched it as well. And then so basically these kids, the girl has an abusive father who knocks her out, and then like I don't know what the other kid's deal is, but the moral of the story is that they become their own foster family. They stick together and they make when the kid with the broken leg who gets a terrible infection almost dies, they make him feel better by bringing him a puppy in the hospital. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, you can't bring a puppy into a hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you never
Can
let
somebody
that
can somebody check the conversion rate and see if 225 is even a good deal for this book?
Oh, like back then?
Yeah, like
this would have been like early 90s.
it's probably like a $10 book.
Yeah, only 225.
Slightly of that later that decade, I feel it was like $7 for a Star Wars book. So I mean, it's discount, but no Star Wars expanded universe.
Well, it's also funny though, because like I remember thinking as a kid, like, why this book? Like it wasn't that bad or anything. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it was only 225. It's like cheap for the district to buy a bunch of copies.
What's also weird about that is that means they did put like that. You can't just cover up that price. You are locked in.
Yes, yeah, they printed the price. So hopefully the book doesn't take off. So speaking of taking off, now let's get to Pinball. On the NES, released in 1984. Let me read the description to you guys from the Nintendo Switch online catalog. It says, Hit targets and rack up points in this classic pinball game. Featuring a bonus mode starring Nintendo's legendary character Mario, you control our hero as he holds a platform and uses it to keep the ball in the air. Your goal is to save Pauline. If she falls and hits the ground, you lose a ball. But if you save her and lead her to the exit, you'll get a nice surprise. This game is fun and easy to learn. It includes bonus balls for high scorers and even a 2-player mode. This is a game both pinball fans and novices alike can enjoy. So
Can
first,
two players save Pauline together?
no, you take turns. You take turns.
Gentlemen.
Jonathan, oh my gosh. Oh, I hope people never find this podcast. We have to keep this at one listener, Mike. Let's go with first impressions here. We got the box art for North America and the Japanese box art there on the right. What do you guys think looking at the boxes here?
I'm so disappointed the description indicated the Mario thing because I was hoping you would see at most this cover and be very confused as to what the heck's going on. And the description telling you that that's in there saddens me a little.
It's still kind of confusing.
Well, yeah. Justin, Jonathan, you didn't play the game for, I think, as long as Mike and I did. Did you guys ever get this bonus stage that they're really hanging their hat on?
Nope.
Okay.
It's an action series, though. I see that.
Yeah, Nintendo Action Series, yes.
Yeah.
This is referring to this thing you can, kind of unlock by knocking your pinball into a certain part of the table. And at this point, I guess I'll go to the picture since we're talking about it. The game kind of becomes like Breakout. There it is. Cool. So you have Pauline, the damsel from Donkey Kong, running back and forth, and the ball is bouncing around, and Mario has to, reflect it with this girder he's holding. And if you hit the numbers enough, the floor underneath Pauline will open and she falls potentially, to her death. Or if you catch her, you can then lead her away to the bonus stage. But it's just weird that this is just a small sliver of the game, but I guess they really thought that's what would sell it is Mario's.
Yeah, that's some dude programmed a basic pinball game and a basic Breakout game, and they're like, how do we sell this?
Yeah.
What if you make Mario a little Mario figure holding that Breakout thing, and then we'll sell it that way.
Yeah, the weird part with that, I have no idea how that. I think it describes it like a bingo section or something weird because you're not getting rid of the. If you go back to that screen, you have this grid of numbers, and as the ball passes over them, they change color and I think value in ways that I do not. It's happening too fast for me to comprehend. But the platforms up stop just get narrower and narrower until the gap's large enough for her to fall.
Right.
The manual just calls her Lady, by the way.
Lady.
Jeez. Erase her identity.
Yeah, and then once she falls, if you can catch her, then you just move her over to one of those exits on either side.
Yeah. Well, and and the game says, if you do so, you get a nice surprise. It's literally just a little musical cue. It goes like, and that's it. I was like,
I thought it was just like the points.
Is that it? Yeah.
That's what I took as the nice
surprise. Can you be
surprise.
surprised by the points in the game where you're earning points the whole time?
Yeah, whoa, I got points for doing that.
No way.
But, Jonathan says, call her later, just erase her identity. Pauline didn't really have an identity at that point. She literally was just, a human being in a dress for you to save. But, they've done some cool things with the character since, she was a central supporting character in Super Mario Odyssey and made a cameo even in the Mario movie where she's the mayor of, canonically, she's the mayor of New Donk City. And
nothing changes for old
which,
Pauline.
by the way, one of my Tumblr posts I was most proud of is the worst names in the Mario universe, and New Donk City is definitely one of them because that implies that there was the city of Donk at some point.
Yeah.
This is New Donk, where the settlers moved somewhere else.
Old Donk is the sewers underground where the mutants live.
Yeah. But, even as misleading as the, North American, box art is, just focusing on that bonus game, I just think the Japanese one is just bland. It's just the table, with a little motion. I guess aesthetically pinball. It's just, there's just not much to it. But I guess what could you do? It's just a pinball game.
Yeah, I mean, it's giving you what you're going to get when you play.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mike, we got this little, I don't know if we can make my joke, but I'm going to make it anyway. We got the little pixel art of Mario here, and it's basically a screenshot of the game, which Mike, as Abe Simpson would say.
was the style of the time.
Yeah, there you go. That was funnier the first time. Let's go to some trivia here. So, Pinball is based on a Game & Watch system of the same name, released in 1983. Game & Watch was this series of little handhelds that Nintendo would make.
Sponsored by Neil Gaiman.
What?
Neil Gaiman.
Was it actually?
No.
Neil
I don't get the
Gaiman
joke.
Game
and
Watch.
Wait, I still don't get it.
Everybody got it but the host. Let's keep going.
Wait, I don't get it.
Well, that's a
I'm gonna
good
clean
one.
Oh, Gaiman! Oh! Game & Watch. Yes, Neil Gaiman. All right. You guys are all jerks. You guys could have explained that, and this would have been much faster. Okay.
I don't know how to explain that and not be condescending.
That's why it's called Mike Lund Thinks. And not
the marvelous mind of Mike Lund, I guess. Not Jaymo's junk brain.
I think you now have a proper title for this.
Game
podcast.
& Watch. Game & Watch was largely seen as a predecessor to the DS because it would be this clamshell design. You would open it up, and on the screen at all times would be a clock, so you could see what time it was. But you could also play games like Pinball here. It was yeah. They were all clocks. Yeah. And so the score in the top left would also alternate and show you the time. Yeah, kind of neat. And
it's like a game and a watch.
It's a game and a watch.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people think Game & Watch like you watch it with your eyeballs.
Yeah. They're mixing a noun and a verb.
They are
unpleasant.
Yeah. Well, no. Watch it's a noun and a noun. It's a game.
Yeah,
and
you bought
watch.
a game and you bought a watch.
So
they got smashed
Or
together.
it's two verbs. You're gaming and you're watching. I mean,
yeah, but that's the wrong one. We already covered that.
No, but you're watching the time. You're watching time pass. This was also one of the playable games in the GameCube, Animal Crossing. You decorate your home with an NES, and you could play pinball. And it was also available via the e-reader, which was a peripheral for the Game Boy Advance that used an LED scanner to read barcodes on specially printed cards. The code for entire NES games was contained therein, and by scanning the cards in the proper sequence, the data to play said games would be transferred into the system's RAM. But since the data was only stored temporarily, you would need to rescan all 10 cards to play again after turning off the system. Mike, yeah.
What was next? Did they also have an attachment that used punch cards?
I mean, I don't know. Justin,
did the printer and the camera? I mean, those are kind of similar.
Justin, did you have an e-reader? I thought maybe you might have.
No, I didn't have that one. We all had the camera.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got the e-reader because it's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat, So the kind of the coolest use I ever saw of it in doing the research for this was there was a board game where the cards are actual cards used in the board game, and then you scan them and do a quick game, and based on how the game goes, you like either move ahead or move backwards or whatever.
Wait, they made a board game with mini games.
Yes, yeah, it's a Mario Party board game using these cards. Pretty cool, I think. Anyway,
that feels like it would lead to deaths.
What do you mean? Just you play board games.
Live action Mario Party just seems dangerous.
Oh, because the giant dice appears above your head and you have to punch.
I just see it get like Monopoly with people already has bad outcomes, but like
that's because it's Monopoly, Mike.
It's got money in it.
That game is intended to make you hate life.
Yeah, and I think Mario Party is as well.
I like Mario Party. I remember a couple years ago for my birthday, I just told my whole family, I don't want any gifts. I just want you all to download Mario Party so we can play together. And I intend on making you guys all play that again for my birthday this year, just so you know.
Oh man.
That might require me to buy another copy of that game.
What? You sold it?
Mario Party's so bad.
Oh man. I'll never stop loving Mario Party.
It was enjoyable for what it did, but
yeah,
I don't have enough life left to waste on things I don't enjoy a lot.
Justin's like, I'm circling the drain here. I'm not going to spend time getting cheated out of Mario Party victories.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so my last two pieces of trivia for Pinball is that, when you boot up the game, it gives you the option of game A or game B. Mike, you read the manuals for these things because you're trying to kind of game retro. Did you learn what the difference is between game A and game B?
I don't recall. I feel like this might have even been one of the ones that just told me that there is a game A. Okay, yeah. Game A is designed for beginners. Game B
Yeah.
is designed for experts. My wild guess off of what that means, because that's not a helpful description, is game B just faster? Are we doing this again?
No,
Oh,
they did
cool.
that for tennis, but game B has more realistic physics and the ball is heavier. So, it's going to pick up speed and get, to the bottom of the screen faster.
Oh
Which
wow! I didn't try the. I'm trying the B right now, and this is way better than A.
Yeah, I mean, it actually feels like pinball.
It feels good. Doesn't feel like you're playing in a weird space nebula.
Right. Yeah.
All right, let me put it up.
Yeah. Everyone check out game B. Well, I tell you that there's also a number of hidden interactions on the table. You can change the color of the walls by hitting certain targets. And if you get to 100,000 points, Mike, did you get that high?
I don't know what I got to.
You got here because the game all of a sudden gets almost impossible. At 100,000 points, the flippers turn invisible, and they don't return until 150,000
Right.
points.
Yeah,
What
no, I think that was in the manual. Now I remember that one I did.
Oh
not
man,
get.
this is way different.
Yeah.
Okay, now. Okay, you're making me.
Have you
wanna
played this,
try it
Jaymo?
out. Okay, hold on. Let's see.
It has become a pinball game.
Yeah, it actually feels like a pinball game.
Okay, hold on. Let me put this up here. well, yeah, you can really see the ball kind of moving more realistic. So A was just very floaty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad we had this talk because I feel like
We
I just
rescind
changed
everything I said about the game.
It's great.
This is actually one of the
whenever-
best pinball games that's ever been created.
This is awesome.
Jonathan's critiques for games are always best game ever or worst game ever made.
That's all you really need to know.
There's no in between. So
He is
Nintendo
to game
never.
what I am to movies.
Yeah. Well, so let's just kind of transition then into the Joy Pros. Like, I think for a game this old, the movement of the ball, it's kind of impressively fluid. Like, I feel like
I just found Pauline.
he's really having a better time with it now.
It's a good game out.
Okay, but isn't it kind of impressive how the ball moves so realistically for such an old game?
Yeah,
it actually moves better than the next topic at hand.
Yeah, exactly. Like the next game we're going to cover, much newer, but not nearly as fluid. Mike, you're a pinball boy, as we established. What do you think about this game's facsimile of actual pinball? Like, how close does it get in your mind?
I mean, I think it does a really good job. I think my biggest. So if you go to the screenshots that you've got of the screenshots of the screen,
the table.
Yes, that's the thing. I think one of the things that I do, I have mixed feelings on. So one of the things is the manual fills in that role of, the guide of what things do.
The manual is the little corner that you would normally read at an actual pinball table.
Yeah. And so that covers things like if you go through on the top half of the board, if you go through the lane on the right, there's 3 numbers on there that are basically acting like a slot wheel. And so you can go through that lane on the right, it spins those.
Okay.
And your options, for reasons that I don't know why we're doing this, are the number 3, the number 7, and I think penguins.
Wait. The slot only has 3 options per slot?
Yeah. It is 3,
3,
7,
7 and penguin?
Yes.
It's like the tennis episode, 15, 30, 40, love.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the 3 penguins is the best option?
I think the 3 penguins were the best.
They sound the
Actually,
best.
maybe not.
They're cutest, for sure.
Who doesn't love penguins?
So the 3 threes give you 3,330 points. The 3 sevens do the same thing. And also both of them put a block post up so that you can't lose the ball between the flippers.
Yeah.
And then the 3 penguins just doubles points for the next period of time. I kind of I like the seals that they've got there, which is that if you go up the ramp on the left, the seals just start bouncing like beach balls and giving you points for somehow.
Can you interact with the seals in the beach ball? Are they physical objects or just visual representations of
just visual stuff going on?
But it's still kind of cute.
Yeah. And when you get down to the lower stuff, So like you've got the eggs slash I think chickens.
Yeah, when you hit the eggs, they crack and then they become chickens.
Yeah, which
Ooh,
if
I
you
thought
go
those were
through,
baby
eggs
penguins.
again.
Well, I guess they could be baby penguins. I
I
don't
don't
know.
think they are. I
I
don't
think
think
the
they
chickens.
are
I think
though.
you're right.
That's
Yeah, I feel like they'd be blue if they were
yeah.
the penguins.
And so like when you go through that, that's where you get you'll usually have something on these outer lanes down at the bottom where you can earn something so that you don't lose a ball that way.
So this might be a dumb question, but like I never really understood the point of like learning all this because I never feel like I have the ability to aim the ball accurately.
I mean,
Are
get
you
good.
guys? Oh, so Mike, are you good enough at pinball that you can like call out a target and hit it? Because I'm
Somewhat.
not.
And definitely one of the things that comes into that is the ability to getting used to trapping the ball. So that in
Yeah.
other words, you're not just hitting it with the flippers, you're catching it and then aiming it where you want to go.
Right.
Which is why I think the only thing that I was not able to get at some point playing is the one that I think is the hardest to pull off. So the other two things here, one is you've got these numbers 1 through 7 on the side,
Yeah.
which
You
if
can't
you
count that high.
get all of those, there's like a red gate on the right that will open and it'll just have like a sign like exit. And I have no idea what the point of that is. Like you can hit the
It just
ball
closes the
through,
game down.
and then you
Thanks. All right.
You're
But
only
isn't that how you get to Pauline?
no, Pauline isn't that exit. Pauline is the hole just a bit up from that.
Above it.
Yeah, I went into that hole twice on the top screen, and then you heard me exclaim, "I found Pauline!" Just
You went to
We
the
did hear
Pauline
that.
hole twice.
Yeah.
And
And then
You
the
got
one
your
bit
special
that
surprise.
then you got your special surprise, a song.
yeah, and then the one bit that I was trying to get and I couldn't, and it's just because it's a tough spot to try to aim for, are the 5 cards on the top. I could get to 4, and I could never get
Mm.
a 5th, and it's because you don't have a clean shot. You're having to get the ball up and fall down in the right spot on the top of that, the top of the lower screen.
And that part kind of annoyed me because you have these poker cards, or I guess these playing cards would be the term, and you flip them over, and I thought like, okay, that's kind of a neat little element of chance because like you'll flip them over, and I expected to get like different poker hands. So like, oh, 3 of a kind is worth a certain amount of points or whatever, but it's just the same 5 cards. It's just like the royal flush every time. And like maybe I'm asking too much of a game from so long ago, but I was like, that's a missed opportunity for
I
a
think
little
it's-
bit of extra.
I'm willing to
randomness.
bet that was supposed to be the case there, and for the
Yeah.
numbers, it wasn't supposed to be 3-7 penguin. But somebody couldn't figure out how to actually randomize the numbers of the card.
Right. Yeah.
So they're like, screw it, we'll just set it to these.
I could see that. I mean,
think
especially
it feels a bit
37
more like I
penguin.
would expect one of these not to have that be a chance thing and just be like, get these 5, and we've just kind of given it like within that it's a theming of, hey, this is a playing card thing, which I think is my issue with this is all of the components feel like things I would expect out of a pinball machine.
yeah.
My problem is that all of them, I mean, the only thing that isn't is that whole weird Mario area. But the thing that is like all of these as individual elements functionally are solid. There is not like the slightest concept of a theme to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
it's clearly a circus or a beach
Yeah.
or a farm on a circus.
Yeah, it's so I think we've already kind of covered all the Joy Pros or everything. I would agree that in fact I even put that in my notes, just a total lack of theming, and there's no music. The solid black background, like it doesn't feel so much like a pinball table, but like a hodgepodge of pinball ideas, I guess. But I mean, I don't know though. Like I feel like for what it is, I wish there was, unless Mike knows it from the manual, is there a way to tilt the table? Because a lot of pinball games will have a tilt button to kind of influence the path of the ball.
I think on this one it didn't,
Yeah,
because you're just kind of limited on button options.
right. Well, the next game though does have more button options. So, do you guys have any other thoughts about Nintendo's NES Pinball before we go on to our second game?
I don't know if anybody else sees this, but on the bottom half of the screen, it looks like an orc's face to me.
I've
Like,
always
he's got
thought that looked like a face.
He's got
Yeah,
the two
poor
eyeballs and
Frankenstein.
nose. He's got like four fangs.
Yeah, like the eggs are kind of teethy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see a Frankenstein because I see his stitches up there by the
Yeah, he's kind of got Frankenstein.
Ooh,
Oh,
got a
yeah,
Frankenstein. Yeah.
green forehead.
See, this is that theming it's missing.
And
Lean
the top
into
half
that.
looks like a bong.
Oh, it does! Oh my
I think we found the hidden message.
god! Yeah, the top half of the screen makes you see Frankensteins and animals.
All right.
Okay, so let's go on then to the second game for today, which is Sonic Spinball on the Sega Genesis. So this was released in 1993 for the Sega Genesis, and I am going to read the description here off the Nintendo Switch Online catalog for Sonic Spinball. It says, the world's fastest hedgehog bursts onto the pinball scene in an all-new adventure. In this action pinball game, anyone can pick up and enjoy, gather the Chaos Emeralds, and save 4 worlds from Dr. Robotnik. And the Sonic, I'm so glad Justin, Jonathan, both of you could be here, because Sonic is huge in our lives. We're big time Sonic fans. We have been since the beginning. And Justin, I think you're like the biggest Sonic fan I know. How many times have you beaten Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
No, hundreds of times.
Right? Like
I beat it like at least twice a year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not
like one
that
of the
long
best
of a game, but
I mean, you definitely have to be on our Sonic 2 episode, just because your knowledge of that game is like almost encyclopedic.
I mean,
But
it is
like
the best one, possibly the best game ever made.
it's up there. It really, really is up there. It's up there with Street Fighter 2 in my mind.
It definitely beats that. But anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, Sonic is just huge, and in fact, Jonathan brought a Knuckles toy to his college speech class.
No, it was a film class.
Was that college?
It had show or I was
Was
like
that at
19. Why am I
COC?
doing show and tell?
Yeah. So you brought the Knuckles toy, and like the toy would say 2 things. He would say like, "Whoa, that was incredible! I'd never seen anything like it," and it would also say, "Time to make a house call." And you had some sort of like reasoning for it.
Yeah, you got it backwards. I said when I need to get going and motivated, I click him. He says, "Time to make a house call." It was like time to amp up, right? And then when I complete the task, he says, "Whoa, that was incredible! I've never seen anything like it." And
so
the teacher was really into that.
He said this in front of a room full of adults.
Yeah.
Well, so Sonic Spinball was developed by the Sega Technical Institute, a based branch of Sega of America. It was founded by Mark Cerny. Mike,
what was it called?
Sega Technical STI. Yeah.
The STI.
The STI. Yeah, someone didn't think about that acronym. So, Mike, if I told you that it was founded by Mark Cerny, does that name sound familiar? I'm wondering how much you're remembering our former episodes.
Not much, so no.
Mark Cerny was the lead designer of Kid Chameleon. And they went on to have their hand in some of the Sega's biggest hits that we're going to cover on this podcast, including Comic Zone and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So let's take a look at the box art here. Because this game box has been in my mind, living rent free for a very, very long time. But Mike, did you play Sonic Spinball back in the day?
A whole lot. I
Really?
never had this. I went to houses that had this. I played it a lot, but it also meant that I was always kind of limited on how far I could get.
Yeah.
Like just sitting in the back of someone's house playing Spinball.
Yeah, everyone's having dinner. They just hear bunk, bunk. He's like, is someone playing a game in the next room? Oh, Mike again. Get out of here, Mike.
It's probably closer to that than it should be, but man, I love this game.
That's cool. Yeah. And I mean, I love the North American box art. I think there's so much to appreciate about it.
What I also like about that,
cool.
So it's got the metal rails, which are a thing that you will see on various pinball machines, more so than we see it in this game, actually.
I don't think you ever see the metal rails in this game.
I don't think you do either, but it's definitely like it's a.
You do in the first level. There's a minecart section.
Yeah, I could have sworn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. But no, but these aren't minecart rails. These are like, as Mike's referring to, like actual pinball machines.
I always thought they were supposed to be like an amalgamation of the two of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's kind of going
I assume that's what it
for
is,
that.
yeah.
It also kind of reminds me of something that this way predates, which is, so as you are all large Sonic fans, are you aware of the real world spin-off that this game had?
Are you referring to, because Mike's a big theme park buff, and so it's going to be one of my notes for later. Mike's referring to the ride in Alton Towers.
Yes, the Alton Towers Sonic Spinball roller coaster, which was a spinning coaster
So
from
so let
2010 to 2015.
yeah. So
Okay, I vaguely remember hearing about this, but I don't think I ever thought about it more than that.
yeah, so Sonic and Sega had a partnership with a theme park in the UK called Alton Towers. And Mike, do you want to speak on these? I got some research, but it sounds like you might have actually gone to these.
I've never been, but I am
Okay.
It's a fairly prominent UK theme park.
Okay.
But yeah, so they had a spinning roller coaster that they still have it, but for a time it was a Sonic Spinball roller coaster.
Yeah, so it actually wasn't Sonic's first appearance at that theme park, though. His first appearance was in a game that was called Toyland Tours. It was like it's a small world sort of boat ride, and it was devoted to different types of toys. And so they added this Sega Genesis room, and so the boat would go into this sort of really cool game themed room, and there would be a Sonic animatronic. And Justin or Jonathan, you said, like, is he holding a cane? What he's doing, he's standing on a giant controller, and that's supposed to be the joystick.
Oh.
And so the Sonic animatronic would be moving his hand back and forth, implying he's controlling it as his little foot does his little, idle animation, the foot tapping. And this was such a hit with fans that it caused them to re-theme the Spinball Whizzer roller coaster into Sonic Spinball, and it's the only time Sonic's ever had an official ride. It was a cosmetic change. You can see in the picture in the bottom right here, they repainted the coaster to be the blue and red Sonic colors. But the Roger Craig Smith did the voice for the safety instructions, and there was also some Sonic themed mini games you could play in the queue. The partnership with Sega sadly ended in 2016, but legend has it that the Sonic statue is still tucked away on the park and is still visible from certain rides, if you know exactly where to look. This is all
That's
according
creepy.
to the Sonic YouTuber Bad Nick Mechanic gave me all that information.
Yeah, and I will say its other name of Spinball Whizzer is also a good name.
Sure. So let me go back then to the covers here. Yeah, so definitely the Sonic Spinball kind of has this roller coaster vibe. I think my favorite part about the Sonic Spinball North American cover, do you guys see what they did with his feet? Because it's super clever.
They turn into a ball.
Yeah, he's running so fast, because normally, like, when Sonic runs so fast, his legs become kind of this reddish blur, but this time they made it silver because it looks like his legs are turning into a pinball. And
I feel like all we're missing is like some bongos to show how much he's running.
What?
Like old Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Oh, yeah. You're Scooby Dooing
him
here.
Holding bongos.
Yeah.
When I go fast, I grab my bongos.
Yeah, Mike and I remember bongos very differently. So I don't really like the Japanese cover, though, Jonathan. You said it was kind of cool, but I think it's kind of misleading. Like, you'd almost think this is just a Sonic game.
Well, they could probably look at the back of the box.
It's kind of cool, but I think the color's like really his cool. Other all the Japanese game art looks very similar.
Yeah. Well, I remember, when we got Sonic Spinball for Christmas, and I was like, "It's a new Sonic game," and Justin's like, "No, it's a pinball game," and I was like, "What?"
Did I say that? I don't remember.
Idiots.
Well, I think
you knew. Moron.
I think you knew of it, before I knew of it. I think when we got it for Christmas, you already knew what the game was. Yeah. So let's go talk about some Sonic Spinball trivia. The game was developed as a response to Sonic 3 not being ready for release in the 1993 holiday season. But from the second Sonic the Hedgehog game, Casino Night Zone is one of the most popular levels, and it features pinball-like elements. So the idea was pitched to have an entire spin-off game based on this concept. And amazingly, with the assistance of Japanese developers who were flown to America to fast-track the game, Sega Technical Institute went from a proof-of-concept prototype, which, to be clear, had no physics. It was basically just a very slapdash, like, first-level proof-of-concept demo. They went from that to the retail release in about 61 days. If you can believe that.
Okay,
this
that
game was
kind of explains some things.
yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah.
And even more amazingly, just as the game was about to ship, the developers were informed that the rights to the Sonic the Hedgehog theme was actually held by Japanese band Dreams Come True, and
What?
and could not be used for this game because it was being developed in America. And so legend has it that the composer for this game, Howard Drossen, wrote the Sonic Spinball theme, which I just played for you guys, in about 2 hours.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, probably. He's probably drunk or like high as well.
Don't do that to Howard Drossen's good name.
I'm sure he was an adult.
But this is just wild to me though. This entire game was basically made in 2 months. The theme, which I think is pretty good, like developed in just 2 hours. Like, so this is all according to an article from Retro Gaming Magazine, issue 85. So it's just wild to me. I appreciate this game more knowing,
And
how last minute
what
it was.
I'm willing to bet actually happened was they were like, okay, Sonic 2 has this part. Let's just take this exact coding and see if we can make a pinball game out of it. And then they were like, since we can do that, we can make this game no time. 2 months, we're done. And then they tried it, and they were like, oh, crap, this is terrible. And then they had to fast-track production of a whole new thing.
So, Mike, you've done some coding. Justin, Jonathan, you guys ever done coding?
I mean, back in the day when it was like basic.
Oh, yeah, you had like a big book on it. I remember that thing. So, Justin is sort of half right. They were making Sonic Spinball, and they realized they were not going to hit their deadline. Like, there's no way this is going to be ready for the holiday release, and that's the only reason this game is being made. So halfway through development, they switched from Asset to C programming language. And I guess the difference is that Asset is how most games are made, where like every little thing that happens has its own code and its own interaction. And C programming language is like, Justin, Jonathan, you guys remember before we got Windows computers when we had the DOS program?
Yeah.
You remember, and you had to do C:/ and then type in commands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Sonic Spinball was programmed using that language, and instead of typing it, they just translated it to button presses. But it's partly why this game feels so jerky, but also how they were able to make it in like a month.
Wait. I think you're confusing DOS with C.
Well, like C, like the C drive, right?
That's just like C++.
Like a letter.
Yeah, C++ is the coding program.
C is the original program.
Right.
We're gonna go to. Okay.
Let's get Mike in here. Let's have Mike Lund think right now.
Yeah, Mike Lund's modern mind needs to speak.
This happens to be a thing that it took me longer. Like it took me years before I realized someone thought they were really clever with this, which I think they probably technically were. So one of the things that has to happen with coding a lot is we just have to take whatever a variable is and increase its value by 1 for some reason. You're looping through and trying to keep track how many times you go through the loop or something.
Okay.
So that's a common enough thing that in the language C, they made a shorthand for that, where the entire line is just the variable followed by 2 plus signs. And it basically says, take whatever this variable is and add 1 to it.
Okay.
When they decided to make a more advanced version of C, they called it C++. Because it's basically C, but it's like the next step of C.
Very clever.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with the C drive on the computer like I thought it did?
No, not at all.
Can we edit the part out where I'm super wrong and you're like, actually, you don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's
First thing, Mike, put the letters, the front of the whole thing.
The letters are generally, this is going to feel very dated, I think for a lot of them, it's that your A and B drives usually referred to the floppy disk drives, especially if you had both sizes, and then C was your first hard drive.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do know a lot about is Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's get back to that.
Yeah.
So Sega did sort of an interesting thing in the 90s where the Sonic spin-off games would be largely inspired by the animated series. So a game we're going to cover later is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which was inspired by the cartoon Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It borrowed the antagonist characters and their, designs and likenesses. But Sonic Spinball has cameos from characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog ABC series, lovingly referred to as Sat AM, as fans call it. And it was voiced by Jaleel White. Sonic was voiced by Jaleel White, or as Mike would know him,
Urkel.
Yeah, Urkel. Urkel did Sonic's voice.
Why does only Mike know him as Urkel?
Yeah, as everybody would know him.
I don't know. I don't know.
Since
That
Mike is the only one who watched Urkel.
We didn't watch Urkel.
Or whatever the show was, Growing Up Urkel or something.
Or
Family Matters.
That's it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Or as SNL Celebrity Jeopardy referred to him as once, Urple.
Urple. Why? Like purple Urple?
No, the question was, this color ends in Urple, and someone's answer was Jaleel White.
Nice. But so the Saturday morning, cartoon series, in addition to, helping inspire the characters for Sonic Spinball, or I guess, having characters in it, it also had a massive comic run that ran for 290 issues. And it was canceled mid-storyline in 2016. Justin used to send these to me. He would buy them.
Archie comic series was fantastic.
It was pretty good, yeah, and it had characters from the Saturday morning cartoon show. Justin, Jonathan, did you guys have a preference? Because I feel like we watched way more of the silly Sonic the Hedgehog series than the more serious
there was
one.
a lot more episodes of that. Like the silly one had like 4 seasons,
right?
And the other one had like 1.
And the other one was like a dark adult twist kind of Sonic the Hedgehog. Justin, did you ever watch the cliffhanger end of the Saturday morning AM series on ABC, the one that has Sonic Spinball characters in it? Do you know how that series ended?
I don't remember. I'm sure I watched it.
It's so Robotnik is defeated and implied dead, and then that little that little guy, his assistant, what was his name? He's like bald.
He was like Snively.
Snively, something like that.
Snively.
So he comes out of the rubble, implying that he's going to be, even more fearsome than Robotnik, and he's going to bring help. And you like very clearly see the glowing red eyes of Mecha Sonic, except Mecha Sonic blinks, which really throws me off. Like the red eyes blink as if they're fleshy. I'm like, that's not Metal Sonic.
Well, blink. He could be using wipers to get dust off his eyes.
Sure.
Can I ask you a question about that comic?
Yeah.
So you have this comic tie-in, and I'm hoping there's answers to this.
Yeah.
So we have Sonic on the metal rails again, pinball style.
Yes, this is the Sonic Spinball issue of that comic.
That's clearly a reference to the cover of the game.
Yeah.
It's the same exploding ball.
I'm good with that part. That we're not at the part that I have questions about. The weird thing I don't get is, so Sonic is wearing a tropically themed scarf.
Yes.
Well,
not a scarf.
I told you this is a comic book tie-in. It's right there on the cover.
Oh, it's a tie.
Justin's like, pay attention.
He's saying it. He's right.
These comics are genius. Damn it! Listen.
They were a pretty good series, I thought.
Okay. That's exactly what I was missing. I was looking at that and just it looked scarfish.
Weird. Yeah.
Now that it's a tie, all of this makes sense, because his comment is, Sonic's Pinball is hard enough without having to wear this.
Yeah. And you're like, why is he wearing a scarf? That's a weird choice.
Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to get some more trivia that I thought maybe Justin and Jonathan wouldn't know, because they're such Sonic heads like I am. Did you guys know that there was going to be another game that was actually based on the Saturday morning cartoon series? It's referred to as Sonic 16, because it never actually got a working title. But have you guys ever seen footage of this? I have a screenshot of it.
Is that what that blurry thing is right there?
Yeah.
I thought that was a SpongeBob
Jonathan has a smaller screen, I guess. It was going to be the very first Sonic game to have stealth elements. So you can see Sonic. Yeah, Sonic moves slowly.
Sonic robs the 7-Eleven.
They did a lot of stealth stuff in that show. Like that was like what the main thing they did. They snuck around Robotnik's place.
So there was the game was going to have 2 different types of levels. There was going to be a speed level where you would run through, the environments, and then there was going to be stealth segments. And the developers thought that we can't have a Sonic game where he moves this slow, which apparently didn't stop them when they made Sonic R. Hey,
you could have used the other characters and probably had something kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if a fan ever wants to finish this. So let's jump into the Joy Pros, because Mike, I'm excited to see that you like this game a lot. What do you like about Sonic Spinball?
I mean, I'm going to start off. I like this so much that before we even replayed it for this, I recently, for a message board, was doing something where everyone was providing their top 20 video games of all time. This is in my top 20, and I regret it being at. And I think I put it too low now. I had it at I had it at 20th. When I went back to playing this, I'm like, I should have put this higher.
Wow. I mean, so what is it's a secret sauce for you? What's it got going?
I mean, I think just really I think this comes back to I like pinball.
Yeah.
I like this take on it.
Yeah.
I like the ability that it mostly does play like pinball with you have a little bit of control of how Sonic is moving in pinball form.
Yeah,
which allows you to sort of finesse things.
Right.
But it's like the core mechanism is still it's allowing you to fine tune the pinball mechanics rather than being mostly being mostly Sonic with some pinball elements.
So, in the Sonic games, when Sonic jumps, you can guide his movement, right? You can kind of figure out exactly, where you want to land. And so in Sonic Spinball, when the flipper hits him up into the pinball, arena or whatever, Mike's right. You can sort of hold left and Sonic will sort of move a bit to the left. So it does give you kind of a bit more accuracy. I guess that would be essentially the tilt functionality in this game, because that's what you do in real pinball by tilting the table, right?
Except tilting, you can get in trouble. And you can tilt in this game in one circumstance.
Yeah, we'll go over that when we get to the bonus stages. I thought this game just has a ton of personality. Like I love the screenshots here. In the first level, when Sonic falls between the flippers, a giant sea serpent tries to eat him, and Sonic has to hold its mouth open with his feet in his hands. He has to mash the buttons or else he gets swallowed. And Sonic has his little idle animations. He has expressions, based on different parts of it. I thought the animations were cool.
One of the things here you've got as a screenshot is where you're hanging from a chain over like a thing of lava swinging.
Yeah, that's from the Lava Powerhouse level 2.
How do you swing?
You press left and right, don't you?
Yeah, I think you just press left and right on the D-pad.
I tried that and had no luck.
So every time you grabbed this chain, you just fell into the lava eventually?
Yeah.
Fun fact about that chain, they designed that in 2 minutes outside of a McDonald's.
That would have been impressive because this was before the era of mobile computing. So I don't know how they're...
they just drew a chain. They're like, that's it.
There we go.
Did that while he was composing his music there?
Yeah.
Inside the ball pit.
Well, and I also I like the Chiron, I think is what I'm going to call it, right? Like the top of the screen has the little messages, and it'll either give you gameplay tips or it'll taunt you, like Sonic is being killed here in the gears. It's too bad. And it's wah, wah, wah. And I thought that was kind of neat. It was like a Sonic game with a narrator. Almost.
Well, it's a nice way to tie in the pinball feel, because you got that on the top of the actual machines.
Yeah, and it also does a great job of doing things like this is how many your emeralds you still need on this level and stuff like that. Things where I don't have to keep track of this. There's a thing that will tell me what I'm missing.
Yeah, so the kind of the gameplay loop of the game is that you have to find the Chaos Emeralds hidden in the pinball table. Although it doesn't really feel like a table, it's more like a series of interconnected pinball rooms, which I'm fine with. I think it's neat.
Yeah, it feels like you're trapped in Robotnik's lair. Yeah,
the actual story, Mike, do you want to do this because you read the manual? I know it, but I don't know if you want to touch on the manual's take on it. I'm going to do it. The Vigo Fortress.
Is that how you pronounce that?
Veggio was weird. It's there's nothing vegetable about it. Vegetable. Oh my god, I just said vegetable. Oh.
Yeah. So the description the manual gives for this.
Yeah.
Is the evil scientist Dr. Robotnik has unleashed his most diabolical plan yet to turn the animals of planet Mobius into robots. His monstrous contraption, the Veggio Fortress, built on Mount Mobius, is already transforming happy creatures into mindless slaves.
Yeah.
Robotnik's fiendish machine draws its power from the mountain's volcano. Fiery lava fuels the lethal pinball defense system that protects the fortress. Sonic and his pal Tails mount an air assault on the fortress, only to be blasted in mid-flight by Robotnik's cannons. Sonic is knocked into deep waters near the volcano, but he has friends in wet places and is saved at the last moment. Sonic sneaks into the toxic caves below the fortress. From there, he infiltrates Robotnik's vast and deadly defenses. In no time at all, Sonic starts swiping emeralds, freeing the animals of Mobius, and dishing out Hedgehog justice. Yo, Robotnik, you're in for a mountain of trouble now. Sonic is spinning into action.
That's awesome.
That's actually awesome.
That's so hype. And like, I love. I thought this game deserves some points for the creativity of the levels because they could have just done, oh, this is the ice level, this is the water level, but there's sort of a story through the progression because, like you said, the opening cutscene, Sonic does jump into the water as they're getting shot down. So the first moment is him jumping out of the water and getting out of the sewer level. Then the lava powerhouse, literally. I mean, I always wondered why it was called lava powerhouse. I guess it's actually powering all of Robotnik's other machines. And then the Vigo machine, or Veggio, or what do you want to call it, that's where the animals are being turned into. And then the final level is Robotnik trying to escape out the top. So like you're climbing up through the mountain as you pinball your way up,
is it
looking
only
for this.
3?
It's 4. There's only 4 levels. Yeah.
Huh.
The 4th is Showdown, I think.
Yeah. So let's get to what I think is one of this game's standout features, which is the boss battles, which is not something you get in a normal pinball table, at least not a traditional one. And they're pretty striking. So this first one is Scorpius.
They're creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's a product of them doing it in 2 months. Like, what's this Robotnik guy? Like, oh, he builds like machines. He's like having like a terrifying spider, and they're like, yeah, probably.
Well, it's the only Sonic game because like Sonic 2, you fight the giant Robotnik at the final boss of the game, but it's just, I don't know, it just hits differently here. It's like his face is too human.
Yeah, you can tell all the robots are designed by not the original Sonic team because they just all feel slightly wrong and too rounded, and they're cool, but they're definitely not Sonic enemies.
But like
it's like Silent Hill.
I think the game though does have its own sort of distinct personality though, because as Jonathan said, it's like Silent Hill. Like they're creepy. Like this, I remember being
when this first came out, I was kind of disappointed that we had so many kind of cartoony and not Sonic-y things.
Yeah.
Nowadays, Sonic is it is a multiverse. There's like 6 different versions of Robotnik, and you got
Isn't there literally a show about it being
different versions of Sonics. And I think
Prime.
they did just make the Sonic Prime on Netflix. So it's kind of a multiverse now. So it's like now I'm okay with it because
canonically it makes sense now.
Yeah, now it just fits with the rest of the zaniness.
Well, were you guys scared of this boss as a kid? Because I remember
I'm scared of that boss now.
Yeah, it's like and it's like
creepy,
and like when you hit him, he's like does this horrifying scream.
Don't weird chunks break off of him that are like
like it was weird
correctly?
They used the glitching, how old graphics would glitch with like squares missing.
Yeah,
they used that as
peel it right off the screen,
and like little weird chunks fly off.
Which as a kid I was always like, that's weird, but now we know the game was made in months. Like, just take that and just
just make it fly.
It totally failed on like the first attempt. They're like, wait a minute, just use that. I don't care.
Hey Jaymo, do that noise again when you hit the bus.
Why?
Pretty close.
I don't know. And I love the mechanic of this boss fight because like, you got to jump inside and it even tells you to do that. And so you're bouncing off his back and then also hitting his tail. So it's like this really satisfying ricochet until his tail breaks off completely. How about the boss of Lava Powerhouse? This is
that one was weird as hell.
Roll Boiler.
Why is it giant Robotnik heads?
Yeah, the design of the table in this part's kind of interesting. So you gotta get into this boiler by clearing through the top and going in from above, and then these ghostly Robotnik faces are sort of whack-a-moling in and out. And once you kill one of the heads, the other 3 will hide and, until Sonic leaves. So you have to re-enter the boiler 3 more times. Yeah.
I feel like this was the
that
one
looks like the fire guy in Ghostbusters game.
Kind of, yeah. That was a scary boss too. I wish
it's
Ghostbusters
also
was
really
in there.
frustrating with or the combination of the steam and then like there's 2 platforms up towards the top that will give way.
If you jump on them, yeah.
Yeah, I never beat this level.
My biggest criticism of this game, I think entirely, may be that when you're at the edge of that platform that reaches the inner edge, if you get too close, Sonic will think it's an incline and like roll up, and then you just this thing gives way every time. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to move in close and jump. Stop turning into a.
Oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking
Your
about.
biggest complaint is this one little spot where they didn't render it properly.
It is because this thing is because so often you'll jump in there and you'll hit it like once and bounce out the other side. I'm like, I got to do this again. And also keep in mind, because at some point with this, it's like, well, if you fall down from that table, you then go down, you fall down the whole level to a chain that I always die on.
Yeah. Oh wow. Because Mike, you're not using the rewind feature. So
yeah, rewind definitely helps this game a lot.
a lot. Yeah,
I'm sure we're losing money prospect value out of it, but I'm not sad.
Yeah. So let's just go over the last two bosses. The Vigo machine is what I'm going to call it. Is the roboticizer, and this is a cool one because when you enter this chamber, you see the poor little animals being sucked in to the machine through tubes, and then you see them getting electrocuted. You see their poor little skeletons, and then they pop out as a robot, and you can free them again by destroying the robot. But so you beat this boss by breaking the tubes, and then you get to see all the little animals fly off to freedom, which is really satisfying. And then you have to go kind of like up the butt of it from beneath, and you bounce around inside. And now Sonic is just represented as a silhouette, and the machine is flashing, like overheating. And it's just like, it's a really cool one because it has that sort of cathartic, like, I freed the animals and I'll destroy this thing from the inside out. I really like that boss. Mike, so you love this game so much, I'm guessing you've gotten pretty far in it?
I've gotten fairly far in this. I've hit a point where I can no longer get further. So
okay.
So point wise, I think the furthest that I got was tantalizingly close to the next boss. extra ball.
Oh, so you've never actually beat the game?
No, I got to the last level and I cannot get through that last level. It's so precise and
rewind feature,
so unforgiving.
I remember I beat it once on the Genesis, but I think that was probably about it.
Yeah, so I think I came 24,000 points of getting an extra life on the last level. I was just below 60 million points.
Well, so here's the final boss you never got to see, Mike, and it is.
I watched the video of this because I wanted to see it. I'm like, dang it! If I could have gotten to that one, the boss battle doesn't seem that bad. It's getting to that boss that was rough.
And it's cool because at this point, Robotnik has realized his mountain is been taken back by Sonic, and so he's trying to escape, and so you have to launch out of the top of the pinball table and then bounce off his bombs as he's bombing you from his ship above. And then when you get into the ship, you attack him in the cockpit. He has two attacks, little kind of claw arms. And then Justin Jonathan, I feel like you'll remember this, he has like these wind socks. And he goes like, smell my socks is what he says.
Oh yeah.
And as like a kid, it's like it's really weird. Also, like this portrayal of Robotnik is super strange because he's huge. Like, it's not a robot, it's him. But it's like almost like Sonic is the size of an actual hedgehog. In this moment.
I mean, he was bigger in the Saturday morning cartoon show than the other characters, but yeah, he is especially large here.
Yeah. It's just kind of a strange tone for a last boss fight, but I don't know. It's still, kind of cool. Let's talk about the bonus stages. So between every level, it's really neat. It transitions into an isometric view, and it's Sonic actually standing at a real pinball table. And you can see, Sonic's hands in the bottom left and bottom right of the screen as he flips the flippers, and you can see his reflection in the glass. And this is where you get the cameos from the Saturday morning cartoon series. You can free Princess Sally and Bunny and whatever the walrus's name was.
Yeah, Tails is in there, and
Francois or whatever his name was.
Yeah,
they're all here. And so, Mike, this is the mode where you can actually tilt the table. You want to talk about that?
Actually, I never use the tilt because it's never been a thing that I use when I play.
Right.
So I know it's there.
I never knew this as a kid. But if you press all three buttons, so the game controls, there's A and B for left and right flipper, and then C for both, which is all I ever used. I only ever pressed the both flippers. It was just easier than trying to remember. And if you press all three buttons, Sonic will shake the whole table. And then if you do it too much, the thing will be like tilt and freeze up like actual pinball tables do. guess you could do it when you're ricocheting around and get more points that way.
I was going to say, I think its bigger use is the one thing that happened to me with these tables a lot that was frustrating would be a shot. And I even had it happen once or twice on the opening shot where like I never hit the ball. It would go up, bounce off something, and go straight down between the flippers, and I had no chance.
Yeah.
And so that's where I could see tilt helping, where it's like, I'm going to lose I'm not getting the ball anyway. So if I tilt, I may get it and keep this going.
And I think Jonathan reacted to or Justin or Jonathan reacted to the face of Dr. Robotnik and his teeth knocked out. Like, it's really kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
This giant Robotnik face sliding.
He deserves it.
He does. He's being a real a-hole. But like, you hit the teeth and his teeth spin until eventually he's like this toothless face and you got to knock it in and blow him up. It's like, woof, this is kind of gory. But I really like this. Like, I thought it was cool because, you know, for those who didn't like that it was not a traditional pinball game, okay, here you go. Between every level, here's a traditional pinball game. And it was purely for points. You could lose and it doesn't affect your lives. It was just like, I don't know, a nice little diversion. Do you guys have anything to say about these?
I'm amazed that they did in 60 days. They still bothered to do this, because if they didn't have these, no one would notice. And I like the sonic reflections on this and everything. Like, it's
a nice touch.
Yeah.
Do you think this was like a proof of concept they did in the first like 2 days, and they were like, "Well, this isn't fun enough for the whole game.
No.
So let's go do something else."
That's
like,
an interesting perspective. Also, because it is weird to imagine that Sonic is like trying to save lives and everything, and every so often he's just like stopping and like he's passing a pinball machine and stopping and playing a little bit, and then gets
Sonic,
back to it.
Yeah, it's cool.
But I mean, you know that these aren't
to relax.
Well, if I can really get into the Sonic lore, you can tell these are not canonical because in the reflection of the glass, there's clearly a city behind him, and that's not any.
That's the city in Sonic 2.
Yeah. So, but this is not taking
Mobius,
place while he's
I
trapped
guess.
in Mount Mobius.
Well, maybe Robotnik has a window facing the city, and there's a pinball machine up there.
Okay, so what do you guys not like about the game? What are your Joy Cons? Because I have a few.
That the whole game feels like it's made out of rubber.
Yeah,
it's this, which is impressive in my opinion. That it's such a classic game, and I enjoy it a lot. But the controls are kind of terrible. Sonic moves really weirdly slow through molasses. Yeah. When you hit the bumpers, he doesn't go straight off them like a real pinball. He kind of, flings off like he bounced.
Right.
And even the enemies, you hit them, and it feels like you're hitting a rubber thing, not something made out of metal.
Well, Justin Strauss, it's interesting because in issue 209 of Entertainment Weekly, the review of this game said that it boasted a terrific concept, but ultimately flawed execution, saying that Sonic, acting as a pinball, moved more like a leaden marble. And guess who said that?
Probably that guy.
Is that John Oliver?
His name is Bob Strauss.
Oh, our great.
It's in our blood, it turns out.
Something.
Third cousins.
Yeah. And something else, that frustrates me about this game is that, there's only 4 stages, which I can feel a lot more forgiving of if the game is made in 2 months. But, the levels kind of wear out their welcome because there's no visual cues about where to find the Chaos Emerald that you need to get up to the boss fight. And so with no reliable way to direct your trajectory, you often find yourself just bouncing around the level aimlessly, destroying the same enemies, triggering the same sound effects over and over again until you get sick of it or just, eventually happen to, by luck spot where the emerald is. So I just feel like maybe if they put like an arrow or something, of directing you towards the next emerald, that would have gone a long way. And I agree with Justin, though, like you need the rewind feature to really enjoy this game, I think.
I mean, as a kid, it was fine because we had lots of time.
Right.
As an adult, yeah, when your time is a premium, yeah, you don't want to spend 6 hours trying to beat the level.
Right. Yeah. So, Mike, this is one of your top 20. So do you have any Joy-Cons, or was it really just that one spot in the lava level where you get stuck?
I have mixed feelings, and I don't remember this happening with playing this in the past. I did discover 2 spots that I could glitch in the first level.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I found I think 2 also.
Yeah, so the first one, so
I found 3.
End up with
I am the one who wants some jeans. What are these glitches, Mike?
So the first is not on the first table, but the second ones. there's two different ways to sort of advance from there. One is you break some barrels up one side until eventually you can go that way. The other is to go up, and there's a lane that each time you go through it, it counts. And so once you've gone through it 3 times, it'll open like a trapdoor.
Oh, cool.
Every so often, Sonic would grab the ledge where the trapdoor is and just swing right past.
Oh, I remember that.
Or he just glitched through.
Yeah.
And then this emerald in that room.
Yeah, and so you'd have to go through that to get to the emeralds.
Yeah, you'd go through that to get to the middle section.
Yeah.
So it just made that spot a lot easier.
And then the other one, and I guess it's how it should have worked, but I'm still sort of disappointed, is I had exactly once on the main room, so you have to drain the acid out of where one of the Chaos Emeralds is before you can exit the main table.
Yes.
I glitched through the block to exit the first table once, and I specifically am like, I'm going to see if I can get that Chaos Emerald or not. And I drowned, or gets killed by acid. I don't know. Sonic died trying to get.
End result is the same. He's dead.
I drowned in acid.
And there was a bit where I was kind of like, I'm not supposed to be here at this point in time. I wonder if the middle bit is just animation and it won't actually know. Like, can I just jump in and grab this emerald, and it will just be like, yeah, have the emerald. We didn't.
Well, no, you could always get to that spot prematurely, because in the second tables, you drop down and you land in that barrel. You can just ride that barrel over to jump into that tank.
Yeah, that's what. That's what I was. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. But to get to the second table,
you were going to physical objects.
To get to the second table, you always had to do the drain. Like, the thing that unlocked getting to the second table is draining.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, to get up the tubes that led up there. That's right.
Yeah, and that's where I glitched through, and it was like, not a dump truck. And so I was very much like, let's see if I can get that emerald. And I'm like, it's like, I mean, I guess this is fair. Honestly,
you were thinking that the poison gate was based on the opening of the other doors, not necessarily a coating of poison.
I think
we have the minutia. This one.
If I didn't expect anybody to, if you had to, drain that to get there, I may not have programmed that as acid. I just would have been like, it's green here, but nothing said this should kill Sonic.
Once those open, then you say, in these squares, Sonic dies.
Yeah.
You
did C command / / kill Sonic.
Did you know?
Nope, we don't need to revisit all that.
Yeah, so that bit was an interesting bit where it's like, let's see what happens with this.
Well, so, I don't know where else I can fit this in, but I feel like if you like this game, Yoku's Island Express is a cool recommend on the Switch, because it's kind of similar to Sonic Spinball in that you're playing as a character, but instead of Sonic, you are a dung beetle, and his and the white ball of dung is the ball, and you're a mailman, and so you have to use the flippers to knock him around this island and deliver mail to different people. It's super cute, and it's usually on sale. And then also
on Game Pass on Xbox.
Oh, is it now? Yeah. If you have some way of checking out Yoku's Island Express, Mike, I think you definitely should if you haven't already. Have you played this one?
No, I haven't heard of that at all.
Yeah, give it a try. It's like Sonic Spinball, except, not made in 2 months and super glitchy or whatever. And then, special shout out to the Pinball of the Dead, which was the House of the Dead pinball spinoff for Game Boy Advance. That thing
they just took every game possibility and just added Of the Dead onto it and just went, there we go.
Yeah, there's Typing of the Dead, Pinball of the Dead.
Yoku's Island Express of the Dead.
That would take some dark twist, dark adult
zombies are on the island.
But I was gonna say, so other than that, like those glitches that were just like honestly fun to explore in a sense. I mean, really, my only other thing is just the last level gets so precise that I kind of eventually accepted I was not going to beat this game.
Yeah,
and
step 4, except
partially because it throws in some things where it's like grab on. I had a look. I what I was supposed to be doing. It's like, no, you get over here, and then you like grab onto a hook, and then it will like create a flipper. And I'm like, I don't think I was figuring that out ever. And that's the only one that really feels unforgiving, because there's so many spots where you will fall down and die.
Yeah.
Whereas the other 3, you can all get to relatively easily. You get to a point where either the first one, you really can't fall and die if you just fall directly down. The other 2, you can advance far enough in that if you fall, you're reverting back to an area you can get back up from. The last one was just, it's too much having to move along the bottom where every table you can die at.
It's pretty punishing. Okay, does anyone have any final thoughts on Sonic Spinball before we go to our critiques for our 2 games today? We all good?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Let's do it. Let's do our final segment where we declare each game as a NintenDo or a NintenDON'T. Let's start off with NES Pinball from 1984. I think that it's incredibly bare bones, but it's hard to default the game for as little as it asks of the player. It's a fairly faithful, responsive, and enjoyable, if not simple-minded interpretation of pinball on the NES. And I think the best part about it is that this game is included free with any Nintendo Switch online prescription. You know, at just $20 a year, you get to play Nintendo games. What did I say? What did I say? I wrote prescription. It's subscription. English teacher getting his prefixes.
NES Pinball. It's just what the doctor ordered.
There we go. Subscription. $20 a year. It's an easy recommend for anyone with a fondness for retro games or retro pinball tables. You might not NintenDo it very many times, but I think it's worth a look. It's a NintenDo for me. What about you, Mike?
I'm going NintenDo. It's exactly kind of what I would like better theming, but it's what I expect out of pinball for the most part, mechanics.
Yeah. Justin?
I'm going to say no, because you can get the old Microsoft Windows pinball game for free off the Microsoft Store.
The Space Cadet
Pinball. Significantly more fun.
Yeah, Space Cadet Pinball was
basically the same thing, and that is a classic that everybody knows.
Yeah, okay, so you're right. For less than $20 a year, if you have the internet, you can do that.
for free dollars a year.
Yeah, for free dollars a year.
Jonathan, NES Pinball?
I'm going to give it a NintenDaby, which is a baby. Because if you do game B, that was sweet and also tight. But if you do game A, it was really bad.
All right, well, so if that's 2 yeses, 1 no, and a maybe, I think the yeses win.
I think it's a yes.
Yeah, so it's NintenDo. And then let's talk about Sonic Spinball. It was one of the very first pinball spin-offs, and playing it in this emulated fashion with the ability to rewind saves a lot of the frustration that I thought kept the original game from reaching a wide audience. So I think Sonic Spinball, I think this is really the only way I'd want to play this game in modern times is with the modern functionality. So it is a NintenDo for me. Justin, you want to go for this one? NintenDo or NintenDON'T for Spinball?
Sure, definitely a NintenDo. I'd say despite the fact that it plays like rubber, it is definitely one of the better games out there, especially one of the better pinball games. There's lots of little fun things to find, and I think, it's kind of the only time they've managed to do pinball for Sonic kind of right, even though it is a little jank, because they've tried doing that even today. Sonic Frontiers had a pinball section that sucked.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like they keep trying to redo it, and it just sucks every time. This is the only time I've ever played a Sonic pinball version. I'm like, oh, I will actually play a full game of this.
Wait, so Justin, you've beaten Sonic Spinball?
Yeah. Yeah, back when we had it on the I bought it at least once. What is that? Sonic Underground or something?
That was the sound effect. You Nintendo. Hey, Justin, ask me if I've beaten it.
Have you? No, I don't want to.
I'm playing the sound effect anyway. You can't stop me. I Nintendo.
Wait, when did you beat it, though? Did you beat it on the Switch?
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
Oh, that's what people say.
You didn't sacrifice the blood, sweat, and tears.
I think I need a special sound effect.
You didn't get carpal tunnel syndrome just to knock the teeth out of Dr. Robotnik.
Crystal says that's cheating. I think it's just...
I agree with Crystal. Crystal's very smart. You should listen to her.
Yeah. Mike, Jonathan, did you guys ever get to the end of this game? No?
No.
I'm really bad at it.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, what are you then? Are you a NintenDo or NintenDON'T on Spinball?
Oh, it's a NintenDo. If you like pinball or Sonic, check it out. Like, it's cool.
And Mike, are we saying, it's your top 20 games, was this another Super NintenDo for you?
This is a Super NintenDo for me. And I mean, I'm good with it without the rewind because to me, playing pinball on a regular pinball machine, you're playing it and getting better and getting further because you start to know what to do.
Yeah.
So that repeatability is innate in pinball to me.
And even though I said the rewind is nice, I feel like it isn't necessary. It's nice because I don't have that much time to do things.
Yeah, right.
But it is still fun if you don't have it. If you don't use it.
I played arguably way too much of this for this episode because when I went back to it, it's like I was right to consider this a top 20 game for me because I just have so much fun with it.
It held up for you. Mike, is this our first episode where every game is a Nintendo, or do we have another one? I think we had another one.
I don't know. We might have.
It's definitely up there, though.
Yeah.
Well, so guys, thank you so much for joining us and sticking with us talking about these pinball games here. This has been the Old Switcheroo, where we're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Jaymo, and we've been joined by Justin and Jonathan. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
Oh, yeah.
It's been good again being on Mike Mole's Matters of Most Material Matriculation.
Matters.
Well, it's just so fun talking retro games with you guys, and I really think you had something, so I appreciate you both being here. Everyone join us next time, and we're going to be blasting and bombing our way through 2 vertically scrolling space shooters, Xevious the Avenger and Star Soldier for the NES. And be sure to like and follow and subscribe if you think we've earned it. You can leave a comment or even leave a voicemail by visiting theoldswitcheroo.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Game on, everyone.